Namaste. In this session, we'll develop our meditation practice. And I'll speak about it for just a few moments before we start. Meditation is really a cultivation of awareness, simply put. It's a quality of both disidentifying and yet opening to all that we are. Whether we're feeling disconnected or enlivened, whether we're feeling morose some days or even real buoyant, it's really nothing that's out there. It's something about our connection inside. And I've found that with meditation, as we start to come home to ourselves and really relax into our being, that it ends up having repercussions and ramifications on everything in our lives. And the process of training in meditation really has what we could say as 3 deepening stages of development. An outer, an inner, and an innermost, or very subtle awareness. And the outer layer is a training in becoming aware, or a kind of knowingness of what's arising in us, what's happening to us, what's around us at successive moments in our experience, with a quality of non-distraction and non-reaction. That's the very basic kind of outer layer of training. And the inner layer includes that knowingness of what's coming and going, but it also attends to the particular feature of those elements, and that feature is of change or impermanence, how everything is really in a constant flow or flux. And the innermost really is a continuing of that practice of insight into impermanence, and is spoken of as an understanding of the empty nature of all existence. It's a kind of emptying of our habits to permatize, to concretize and solidify our world and ourselves. And it's spoken of often with a kind of negative languaging by describing existence as having a kind of insubstantiality, a lack of autonomous, independent existence. But it's also spoken of in a more kind of positive languaging as a deep recognition of the open dimensions of our being. A kind of unimpeded spaciousness, or as Tibetans often say, a self-existing wakefulness. And this is an insight into the very groundless ground of our own being that develops out of this inner restive alertness and then inquiry. The outer layers really utilize concentration and mindfulness. These two together are often termed shamatha. And shamatha is a word that really describes the fruition of this kind of attendance, this alert, non-judgmental awareness. Because shamatha really refers to a calm abidance that develops when we allow things to unfold and observe them clearly. So a tranquility of mind is often what shamatha is described as, that develops out of the outer layers of these practices, or the first foundations of them. the inner and innermost utilize mindfulness and also vipassana or insight practice. And vipassana is a word that, when broken up, passana means to see or perceive, and vi is to see in a certain or special way. So vipassana is really a training of the mind to see things free of assuming we know about them. So free of our preferences and our real ingrained prejudices. And this quality of seeing is what develops a depth of insight into our basic nature. One that is both very clear, naturally, so a kind of spontaneity of clarity, and one that is both extremely vast, without boundaries or definitions. The training as it develops really demands that we start with what is most obvious, with our concrete experience, with where we're currently identified. And for this reason, we'll really begin the training with the first layer of this knowing nature that can attend to what's arising through observing our breath first as the primary anchor, and then we'll widen and open the lens to include the matrix of our experience, the various shifting sensations and feelings and thoughts. This opening does include more complexity and therefore more difficulty. And when we feel like we've become entangled with our experience and it becomes oppressive, then it's helpful to keep remembering that we have this home base of the breath as a natural, unimpeded anchor that doesn't have an opinion about what's going on, that can really just resettle in and establish and renew our intention and commitment to open to our experience. So let's begin by first coming to a posture we feel that we can sustain. And there's a few choices. We can take the simplest one, just laying the feet down in front of us, where none of the bones are actually in contact with each other. The hands can rest either on the thighs or in the center. Some people find the arms feel too long with the feet down there, so then just resting them face down. You can also tuck one foot under in siddhasana, or sukhasana with the feet just under the knees. If the hips allow, we can, without any strain to the knee, take a half lotus, or even for some bodies, full lotus. But it depends definitely on your kind of innate hip structure and is never opposed to be forced. But if that's a strain, there's enough difficulty of the inner issues arising that you needn't pick the most difficult posture. I actually suggest you pick the one that has the most ease for you. If none of these poses feel appropriate because of some sciatic issue, then sit with your feet behind you and the cushion under your sit bones that way. Sesa style or Vajrasana. And then we can align that vertical axis of the spine with the natural curves intact. So we're not sitting back and flattening the sacrum. It has a slight upward lean towards the lumbar, without drawing the weight forward, which will make your knees speak back, because too much pressure there may occur. And then the shoulders above the hips and the head just above the shoulders. Just relaxing all the expression so that the facial muscles just become neutralized. And we'll let the eyes become just softly closed, just a sliver of light draping in. Establishing our fundamental anchor in the belly while observing the natural breath. And just arousing the intention to bring attention to the body, heart, and mind for the benefit of all. Committing now to leaving your posture this way unless it starts to feel risky for you to do so. And then, of course, move slowly and mindfully to a position you feel you can become still in a while again. So the hands can stay as they are, either in the legs or in the center. And we'll bring our attention first to perceiving this moment through the breath body. Just abiding in the abdomen and feeling how the in and out breath matches a natural rising and falling there. Not manufacturing the breath in any length or depth. Just melting the mind into the breath experience. And as soon as you notice your attention waning, sinking or wandering, then just gently noting to yourself, wandering, and come back to perceiving through the breath body. We're neither straining to focus nor aimlessly drifting. But with alertness and restiveness, seeing if we can naturally sustain a one-pointed attention in the moment-to-moment breath experience. This is shamatha with support. as we open the attention to include more features in our experience, it becomes easier to be distracted by emotional and perceptual habits. So we can train 3 interactions that will allow us to remain intimate with the various sensations and emotions and mind states that arise. The first interaction is to recognize, and the second to accept, and the third to let go. We recognize whatever arises. And we accept its appearance or its disappearance. And we let go of believing it should be otherwise. Moving from identification with what we notice to an observing acceptance and openness to every feature in our experience this moment. And now to sustain this continuity of awareness, we can develop 3 inner attitudes. The first is an impartiality. It means we're not censoring what we're allowing into our field of awareness. Allowing the pleasant as well as the neutral or unpleasant features. Observing them equally. And the second inner attitude is a non-judgmentalness. Neither clinging to nor condemning whatever we notice. It can be helpful to note inwardly craving or aversion, so that when these potentially compelling and often oppressive afflictions arise, we can allow them space to breathe while we just gently unfixate from them. And the third feature is cultivating interest. And remaining curious and investigative about this moment. This inner interest will diminish the distortions of assumptions that we collect unwittingly. And allow us to look freshly, the kind of inner innocence and yet at times you'll feel like you start to harden around a particular feature, whether a pain in the body, a thought in the mind, or some mood. At this point, it can be helpful to just inquire into what else is going on. To sensitize our attention to our connection to the earth underneath us, or the simplicity of another new breath. Or the sounds in your environment. Remembering to come back to a direct experience with a willingness to feel. If you've strayed, just gently return. Relaxing your ambition to make anything happen or turn away from whatever is arising. maintaining this holding environment where we neither abandon nor invasively embellish any feature. And letting the eyes just be ever so softly opened. Where you let in the visual content while still remaining inwardly drawn for the last few minutes here. And then softly closing the eyes, and we'll bring the hands together at the heart. Spending a moment just revisiting and directing our appreciation to our lineage of teachers. Just all those who inspire and invite us to live abiding in our authentic nature. remembering our dedication to awareness. Our devotion to the paths that lead to awareness. And our deep gratitude to all those who live or aspire to live in full freedom. Our Sangha, communities, each other. Namaste.